So for the past couple of months, I've been hanging out in Texas. More specifically, the Dallas, Texas area. Currently, I'm thoroughly exploring everything about the area, from its infrastructure, the culture, the cost of living, among other things, as it's a place I'm considering a long-term relocation to. But on this video, I want to talk about one of the more interesting aspects of Dallas and Texas infrastructure in general, and that is the large amount of frontage roads that you'll see all over Texas highways. Now, frontage roads aren't unique to Texas. You can and do occasionally find them in other states. However, no one has built nearly as many as Texas has. To date, Texas has well over 6,000 miles worth of frontage roads along its highways. Whether you're on the Central Motor Speedway in Dallas, driving through the High Five, or if you're switching 4 lanes all at once on the world's widest freeway in Houston, frontage roads are found on both sides of these highways. Why does Texas build so many of them? What are the advantages and disadvantages to building all of these frontage roads? On this video, we're going to find out. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you love the content, as we take a trip to Big Texas and talk about some frontage roads. First things first, what exactly are frontage roads and what are their purpose? Frontage roads are a type of local road that runs parallel to a freeway or other limited access road. The frontage road is lower speed and may have several grade crossings and driveways intersecting it, while the freeway is a higher speed facility for through traffic. The primary purpose of these roads is to provide access to businesses and residential areas that would normally be cut off from roadway access by the freeway. Since a freeway is limited access, usually the land adjacent to it is a sort of no man's land of developable land due to being cut off from the roadway network. You'll see this quite often in other states not named Texas. A frontage road is a way of keeping those businesses and residencies attached to the roadway network despite that freeway being built. It allows the parcels adjacent to the freeway to be developed facing the roadway. You may also hear frontage roads sometimes referred to as access roads or service roads, but these are generally the same concept. Another sometimes used way of giving parcels next to a freeway access is with what is called a backage road. Those work in a similar fashion, but with the parcel itself being adjacent to the freeway right-of-way and the front facing the backage road on the other side for access. Now, there are both good and bad things that come with building frontage roads, so let's start with the advantages. The first and most obvious advantage is access by businesses. As stated earlier, frontage roads allow businesses or undeveloped parcels which would otherwise be cut off from access by the freeway to have access to the roadway network. A good example of this is the Central Expressway in Dallas, Texas. Here in Richardson, you can see almost all of the parcels next to the freeway right-of-way are heavily developed. The actual addresses of these businesses are the Central Expressway, and Texas is one of the few and only places where you'll see a freeway name as the address for a home or a business. While on the other end, for example, the Georgia 400 freeway north of Atlanta, you can see various sections of unusable parcels adjacent to the freeway due to no roadway access in the absence of frontage roads. Another advantage of frontage roads is the separation of local and through traffic. In Texas, with its frontage roads, several exits are available for traffic wanting to access local businesses adjacent to or near the freeway, or drivers realizing that they want to access local businesses can just drive along the frontage road and never enter the freeway at all. This separation of local and through traffic keeps local traffic from backing up and slowing down faster moving travelers and long distance truck drivers looking to quickly get through the area. In places without frontage roads, you're more likely to see traffic queuing onto the main freeway for a local exit and more drivers trying to merge across several lanes at the last minute. Whereas frontage roads allow these drivers, knowing they're going to exit soon, to just drive along them rather than hang out on the main freeway. They can also be a less stress option for drivers who don't want to deal with the high-speed traffic on the freeway at all. If you're new to Texas, in major cities like Dallas and Houston, or not familiar with driving here, stay far away from that left lane and take it easy and relax on the frontage road, or the far right lane when possible. In places without frontage roads, you don't have that option. Another advantage of frontage roads is their usefulness as alternate routes in case the main freeway becomes obstructed due to a traffic accident or roadway construction. If a nasty crash blocks the roadway in Texas, oftentimes traffic can temporarily be diverted to the adjacent frontage road in order to keep things moving. While in places without frontage roads, a major crash that blocks the main roadway will either require a long, out-of-the-way detour or waiting for hours on the main roadway for the wreckage to be cleared. I experienced this when I was living in Charlotte one night while driving back home on I-77 from Virginia. A major crash had the roadway blocked for such an extended period of time that people on the roadway started turning their cars cars off as if we were camping out on the highway for the night. If there were frontage roads, then traffic could have just been diverted onto those roads until the main highway could be cleared. And an added benefit to drivers is the fact that frontage roads often run alongside tolled highways. Having frontage roads along tolled highways allows for those drivers wishing to avoid paying tolls to have the option of not using a toll road in exchange for a longer trip alongside it. Whereas in many other states, if you choose to avoid a toll road, then you could end up taking a long out-of-the-way detour in order to do so. Houston's Sam Houston Tollway is a good example of this, as the free Beltway 8 runs alongside it for most of its length, allowing you to effectively pay the toll with your time at traffic lights rather than your money. And the last advantage is U-turns. Typically on freeways, making a U-turn can be a long and arduous task. You missed an exit? Well, you'll just have to wait for the next one. And when you get there, you'll likely have to stop at least 2 traffic lights. And that's assuming you're lucky enough for the next interchange to be a simple diamond. If it's a more complicated interchange, then it might be a while. In places with frontage roads present, they usually have these U-turns that traffic on the frontage roads can use without stopping at any lights. This is commonly referred to as a Texas turnaround. It can be beneficial for quickly getting back on the freeway, as well as accessing businesses on the opposite side of the highway. Now that was the good, but there has to be some bad, right? Or else everyone would use them. The biggest disadvantage and what might be the biggest deterrent to building them in most places is the cost. After all, a frontage road is another road. The cost of building the roads themselves for extended lengths along freeways can significantly add to the cost of construction. If the area is already developed, then the additional right-of-way required to build the frontage roads can add to that cost as well. Then, after the initial construction, these frontage roads also have to be maintained, just like any other roadway. Another disadvantage is that in urbanized areas such as Dallas, entrance and exit ramps to the frontage roads can be spaced too close together and cause weaving issues between traffic trying to exit the main roadway and those trying to enter. In most cases, I've seen signage telling drivers on the frontage road to yield to incoming traffic from the ramp, but me personally, I prefer not to take that chance. A recent disadvantage here in modern times is that GPS navigation apps such as Google, Apple, and Waze don't do a good job with short distance destinations where frontage roads are present. During my first few weeks in Dallas before becoming more familiarized with the locations of the places I wanted to frequent, I would use Google Maps to direct me to most places. The apps will typically direct drivers to leave the frontage road and enter the freeway just to bypass a traffic light and get right back onto the frontage road. While this may be the theoretical best route based on the app's AI, by doing this you open yourself up to the multiple conflict points of weaving into traffic trying to exit the freeway, and again into weaving with traffic already on the frontage road as you try to weave back into it. It might cost you 10 seconds or so, but it just doesn't make sense to take such a risk for such little benefit. However, some may actually consider this an advantage, in that one could use the ramp to enter the freeway to cross over a traffic light and exit back onto the frontage road, at the risk of your life, of course. Also, on the navigation front, it can also sometimes be difficult to tell exactly which ramp the app is telling you to take, as in urban areas such as Dallas there can be multiple back-to-back ramps, or the line between the main freeway and the frontage road can be difficult to distinguish on the map. If you take the wrong one, you can trap yourself into taking a long detour to reach your intended destination. You'll occasionally see other drivers making last-minute decisions as a result of not realizing which ramp they're supposed to take. This is usually an issue for non-locals, as once you become familiar with an area, then you know when and where most of the ramps are. Which brings us to the last disadvantage: driver confusion. This mainly applies to those not from Texas. In most other states, service and frontage roads are far less common, and people are more used to large interchanges for exiting and entering freeways. To the uninitiated, using these frontage roads can be a shocking and confusing new concept. You can usually tell those new to Texas by the slow, below speed limit driving in the far right lane and late merges as they nearly miss their exits. Or perhaps they were Texas born and bred drivers who just wanted to check their Twitter notifications real quick. My recommendation to new Texas drivers is to stay in the right lane and avoid the HOV and far left lanes at all costs, as those lanes are not for you and you will be eaten alive if you don't know where you're going. If you're really afraid, then you also have the option to avoid the freeway altogether and just drive on the frontage roads in many areas. You may also feel some of this confusion when using the U-turn lane where the frontage road meets the crossing road. I mentioned this as a design advantage earlier, but it can also be a disadvantage for those who haven't been Texified. While you're making that U-turn, you'll be driving to the left on the far left side of the road with traffic going in the other direction, which can feel just plain wrong in a country where we drive on the right side of the road. So with all that said, Why did Texas build so many of these? Well, the core reasons are the access as well as the cost. Former Texas Chief Highway Engineer DeWitt Greer is credited with starting the Frontage Road revolution in Texas. He used frontage roads to lower right-of-way acquisition costs by giving landowners roadway access when constructing new highways. Without the frontage roads, then the state would have had to pay the landowners a higher cost for cutting off their access to the roadway network. When building new freeways, Texas usually will build the frontage roads first to maintain access, and then come in and build the freeway itself afterwards. One major example where this played out was I-35E, the Stemmons Freeway in Dallas. Developer John Stemmons gave the Texas Highway Commission free land along the proposed route under the condition of them building frontage roads that would give access to his undeveloped land along the route. As a result, Texas was able to significantly reduce the cost of construction through reduced land acquisition costs, and the developer also profited due to his land now being opened up for development from the access provided by the frontage roads. This was repeated in other parts of Texas, such as a developer offering the state land to build SH-131 through his property in San Antonio, as well as fronting half the cost of the frontage road construction. Currently, Texas DOT is in the process of transitioning towards one-way frontage roads. Those in urban areas of Texas may already be used to one-way frontage roads, but in many rural areas you can still find frontage roads that have two-way traffic. While the two-way frontage roads worked well in the past, with Americans flocking to states like Texas in droves as they flee the older parts of the country, the growing population of many cities and towns has led to safety issues along those old two-way frontage roads. So Texas is planning to rebuild and eventually phase out all two-way frontage roads with one-way frontage roads that include wider lanes and shoulders for added safety. I suppose this explains all the construction I saw in Amarillo when I drove through there a couple months ago. A fun fact is that the Texas DOT attempted to discontinue the practice of building frontage roads on new highways back in 2002, but they changed course after major backlash to the idea. So it appears that the people of Texas do indeed love their frontage roads, and they're not giving them up anytime soon. And there you have it, folks. That is why Texas has so many frontage, feeders, access, service roads, or whatever you prefer to call them locally. What do you think about these frontage roads? Do you wish your state built more of them, or do you think Texas would be better off without them? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. See you on the next trip, coming soon to a town near you.